Excuse me, but my car isn't working properly. We urge you to settle your outstanding balance immediately, otherwise, your card will remain unusable. The call center operator's words echoed in my mind. I'd forgotten that they'd mentioned an outstanding balance. It appeared that the payment from my usual credit card hadn't gone through. But why? I should have had a substantial amount in the account linked for automatic payments. However, when I checked my bank balance, it showed $0. The only other person who could have accessed that account was my husband. Without delay, I grabbed my mobile phone and reported the issue to the police. I'm Garnet Felton, 30 years old, and I work as a freelance web designer. My job allows me to work from home, but I still make it a point to meet clients face-to-face whenever possible. Although many meetings could be conducted online, I prefer in-person discussions to better convey my ideas. As deadlines loom, I often work long hours and sacrifice sleep. I manage this demanding schedule thanks to my husband's support. I married Thomas a year ago. A few years back, when I was assigned a project at a company, Thomas was the representative I liaised with. We dated for a year and a half before getting married, and he moved into my apartment after our wedding. Despite the stability in our personal life, one major issue remains: Thomas's parents. They have a casual approach to spending and are often short on money. Thomas and I share all our living expenses. Since I earn more, I usually cover the entire month's costs and he reimburses me half at the beginning of the next month. This month, when I mentioned the expenses, Thomas responded, "Money's a bit tight this month. Can I pay my share after my next paycheck?" What do you mean, tight? I'm only asking for half of the expenses. I know, but I'm out of cash until payday. But it's only been 10 days since the last payday. I have some expenses for my parents. For your parents? His vague and evasive responses only fueled my frustration. His reluctance to be clear made me press for more details. Hey, can you explain this properly? Why can't you pay? And what's this about helping your parents? Thomas hesitated. Well, is there something you're feeling guilty about? No, not at all. I just helped out my mom and dad. Helped out? They mentioned they were struggling, so I sent them some money. I was baffled. Thomas's parents are both employed. My father-in-law works full-time, and my mother-in-law has a part-time job. Why did Thomas need to send them money? I asked the question that had been troubling me. Why do your parents need financial assistance when they're working? This wasn't an issue before. I've been sending them money regularly, and they just asked me to increase the amount starting this month. You didn't agree to increase the amount, did you? Yes, I did. Is the problem that my parents are in trouble? It's natural to help them out. Fine, but make sure to pay your share when you get your paycheck at the end of the month. Okay. Thomas can be quite stubborn when he sets his mind to something. While I love him, his obstinance does create problems. I didn't see the point in arguing further or expecting an apology. I decided to wait until the next payday. Since then, he began finding excuses not to contribute to our household expenses. Even when he did, it was only about a third of what was needed. It's been almost 6 months of him refusing to pay. Although we are still married, my patience is wearing thin. I'm covering all the expenses and handling all the household chores, which leaves me feeling overwhelmed and unappreciated. One late night, Thomas came home looking flushed and clearly tipsy. I couldn't help but raise my voice. Hey, if you're going out drinking, why didn't you call? I made dinner and waited for you. Oh, sorry, a colleague invited me out unexpectedly. But you could at least have sent a message. I've told you before that you need to let me know. Don't yell. When I come home, I feel unwelcome. What do you mean? Why am I being blamed? He looked at me with disdain, as if I were the problem. His attitude infuriated me, and I confronted him. Why can you afford to go out drinking when you can't even pay our bills? I can have a drink now and then. I'm exhausted from working every day. So am I. I handle all the household chores. If you can't contribute financially, can we stop sending money to your parents? What? Why? This is my family's business. It's none of your concern. What about us, Thomas? Aren't we family too? What am I to you, living with you after we got married? Oh, stop complaining. You make more money than I do anyway. Why does he act so superior? The only reason Thomas can live comfortably is because I'm covering all the bills. I was at a loss for words. Facing his unreasonable arguments, I couldn't understand his arrogance. Given our heated tempers, I figured a calm discussion was impossible and said, "Let's talk again tomorrow." The next day, as I was preparing dinner and waiting for Thomas to come home, I heard the front door open. "Welcome home," I called from the kitchen, but there was no response. Moments later, the living room door opened, and in walked my husband with his parents. Mom, Dad, why are you here?" I asked, a bit confused. With a smug grin, Thomas said, "My parents have something they want to discuss with you." "Discuss with me? All right, Mom and Dad, let's get to the point." Encouraged by Thomas, my father-in-law began to look apologetic. "Sorry for the sudden visit, we came to talk about the money Thomas has been sending us." "What's this about?" "Oh, Garnet, can you please stop putting so much pressure on Thomas?" I was taken aback. "What?" I stared in disbelief. Then my mother-in-law, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Garnet, Thomas has been sending us money every month, thinking about our well-being. It's unfair for you to blame him." "What are you talking about, blaming him? All I want is for our living expenses to be paid properly." "Listen, Garnet, I hate to say this, but as family, shouldn't you understand? If your family were struggling, wouldn't you want to help?" "What? That's what anyone would think, right? Your father and I have been tight on money recently, so we expect Thomas to continue sending us support. That means you should cover the living expenses for both of you." They seemed to believe it was only natural for me to cover all the costs. Unable to tolerate it any longer, I took a deep breath. I finally had enough and confronted them. "What do you think I'm doing? Handling all the housework and covering all the living expenses? How is that fair? Isn't it what married couples do to support each other, or are you just that greedy?" Thomas's mother's provocation seemed to amuse my husband, who couldn't help but laugh. That night, despite my pleas, he didn't listen. They left only after 9 p.m. Once they were gone, Thomas handed me a signed divorce paper. I stared at it, disbelief etched on my face. "What is this?" "It's exactly what it looks like," he said, his gaze cold. "If you keep defying me, I'll divorce you." "Are you serious?" "Of course, if you don't want a divorce, just do as you're told. Your role is to follow, not lead." I wanted to stand up for myself, but I was too exhausted. Maybe it was pointless trying to reason with Thomas before the situation became even more unbearable. I decided quickly. The next day, I signed the divorce papers and took them to City Hall. The papers were accepted, and just like that, I was single again. I felt a wave of freedom. I'd be moving out and starting anew soon. Feeling rejuvenated, I decided to treat myself with a shopping trip. Since I mostly work from home and only go out for meetings, it had been a while since I'd shopped for myself, especially with covering all the expenses. I hadn't bought anything for myself in ages. Today, I was going to enjoy a little indulgence. I headed to the women's clothing section and bought 2 dresses after trying on a few. At the checkout, when I handed over my credit card, the cashier looked troubled. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but it seems we can't process this card." "What? That can't be right. We've tried several times, but it won't go through. This is impossible. The last time I used this card was for a new tablet I bought for work, and there were no issues." Rushing home, I called the card company. After explaining the situation, the operator delivered startling news. "We need you to settle the outstanding amount immediately, or your card will remain unusable." "What outstanding amount?" "Yes, as of last month, we couldn't deduct the card's usage from your account." "That can't be right. Please check your bank account balance." After hanging up, I checked my bank account online. This account, used for my card transactions, had a balance I remembered being around $5 million. Instead, it showed 0. All $5 million had been withdrawn just before the card's due date. What was going on? A chilling thought crossed my mind. Could it have been Thomas? But who else could it be? Our bank book and ATM card were kept together, accessible only to us. Thomas was the only other person who could have withdrawn from the account. I waited for him to come home and planned to confront him. "Hey, did you take money from my account?" Thomas smirked, letting out a loud sigh, clearly irritated. "Oh, so you found out? I thought I did a pretty good job hiding it." "I can't believe this. Why would you do that?" "Why? For my parents. Obviously, I gave them your $5 million. What did you just say? They asked for financial support, and lucky for them, I had a source. Stunned, I listened as he continued, his tone almost proud. His parents had recently become obsessed with online shopping, buying items far beyond their means. They had been asking Thomas for financial help, and their demands had only increased. They were buying multiple items, giving them away to neighbors, and their monthly bills had soared to over $500,000. Thomas couldn't keep up, so he withdrew the $5 million from my account. Seriously, you shouldn't be complaining, he said. They're family too. Think of it as taking care of them. Stop fussing over a mere $5 million. In that moment, I picked up my cell phone and dialed the police. Hello, I want to report a break-in and theft. My address is... Thomas's eyes widened in shock as I ended the call. He shouted, "Hey, what did you just do? Didn't you hear? I called the police." The police? Why would you call them? I'm not the one breaking and entering. That's you, right? Calling it theft is an understatement. I'd call it breaking and entering. This is my house. I said firmly to the flustered Thomas. We're not a couple anymore. Actually, I'm the one renting this place. So technically it's not your home, is it? We're not married. Remember, the divorce papers you so graciously signed yesterday have already been submitted. So, this is my place. And you are just a stranger here. An intruder. What? You've got to be kidding me. Call them back and cancel the report. Waving my phone at him defiantly, I threatened, if you lay a finger on me, I'll call the police again. Just so you know, they're already on their way. You can't run now. Why don't you just admit what you've done? Whoa, wait, we loved each other, didn't we? Why is this happening? Loved each other? I scoffed. Don't try to play the victim. This mess started because you blindly supported your reckless parents. You can't just do whatever you want and expect forgiveness. Who would forgive someone like you? What a fool. A fool? Who do you think you're talking to? Is this because you were raised by parents who were careless with money? Does that mean it's okay for you to empty someone else's savings? I hope the police give you a good lecture so you can really feel the weight of that $5 million. At that moment, the police arrived, and Thomas crumpled on the spot. Ah, who's the person in question? I pointed to Thomas, who was now cowering on the floor. It's him. All right, step outside. We'll need to take you in for questioning. Thomas pleaded. All I wanted was to help my parents, but his pleas were ignored as he was taken away by the police. However, the police deemed the incident a civil matter and informed me they couldn't intervene further. Determined to get justice, I visited a law firm and sought compensation for the misuse of the $5 million, plus additional damages totaling $6 million. Of course, Thomas and his parents didn't have that kind of money. In the end, all three fell deeply into debt. Despite their financial struggles, Thomas's parents continued their impulsive spending, leading them further into the red. They even turned to loan sharks and now reportedly live in fear of daily debt collection, trying to stay hidden. On the other hand, I completely severed ties with Thomas and moved to a new apartment. Fortunately, my career began to thrive, and I now earn more than I ever dreamed. Looking back, I wished I had divorced him sooner. Even though my marriage was a failure, I realized my life was far from over. Having learned from this experience, I'm determined to be more cautious in the future.